call to order the meeting of the Environmental Control Board. Today is April 18, 2019. And first question, is there a motion to adopt the minutes for the February 28, 2019 meeting?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, abstain because you were absent. Okay, so let me see. All right, so there's a motion and all in favor? 6 in favor. Okay, with 3 abstentions. Okay, so next, we will move on to the second point of the meeting agenda. This is introduction of a number of repeals of both ECU rules.
Morning. Simone Saloon, Senior Counsel with Oath. And today we have for you a rule proposal to repeal several penalty schedules related to the sanitation department. The sanitation department is working on promulgating one penalty schedule with most of the violations from the following penalty schedules. The recycling sanitation collection rules penalty schedule, which is found in section 3-120. The sanitation asbestos rules penalty schedule, which is found in section 3-121. The sanitation penalty schedule is sort of a general one that's found in section 3-122. The vehicle and traffic law penalty schedule, which is found in section 3-125, that relates to the abandonment of vehicles and the illegal placement of handbills on windshields or under windshield wipers. And then we're also proposing to repeal one provision from the public safety graffiti penalty schedule, which DSNY enforces. That's the failure to remove graffiti. And then also proposing to repeal one provision from the environmental conservation law penalty schedule for the improper disposal of a lead acid battery. So like I mentioned, DSNY is proposing a related rule with a penalty schedule that incorporates most of the violations from the above referenced penalty schedules, except for the violations that already have fixed penalties in the administrative code. They are not going to incorporate those ones since the penalties are already fixed in the administrative code. They're only going to incorporate violations in which there are arranged penalties in the administrative code. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay. All right, there being no questions, is there a motion to approve? Okay, there's a motion and all in favor? 7, and those opposed? Okay, all right, thank you very kindly. All right, next on the agenda. Yes, the continued discussion regarding the board panel composition. So as you all will recall, this has been a matter on our agenda for a number of meetings. The matter arose because of the fact that we are missing a number of appointed members on the board, so that the composition of the board, having 3 members with 2 appointed members on each panel, was becoming a bit difficult to manage because the panel members were being used constantly, and the appointed members, that is, on the panels. And so there was a vote to temporarily reduce the number of panel members to 2 from 3. And we've done that consistently, re-voting each month. And I think the desire was to have all of the appointed members weigh in, and Mr. Spetner has been here for a while. So.
Right, I had conflicts, so I apologize for not being available. I think the process is working fine, but I would appreciate an update on what we're doing with the 3 vacancies, because I think that's really kind of, the elephant in the room.
I know there is an update. I don't have one specifically, except that I know that the appointments committee is moving forward. I know that they're moving forward with candidates. I cannot tell you what stage they're in right now.
So I don't know, so is there a question pending for me? I mean, I'm not sure I understand what you need.
Well, the question is, do we continue with the 2-panel, 2-member panel?
I don't think we have an alternative until we have
until you have additional
more
members.
appointees, which was the basis of my prior question.
So I'll make a motion that we continue with the two-member panel at least until the new appointees are appointed, the new
Yes.
candidates are appointed.
Yes. All right, yes.
I'm sorry,
Just state your name.
Elizabeth Nauer, appointed member.
Okay. All right, so all in favor of maintaining the two-member panels? And this is, again, a temporary vote going forward? Is that something that we'll take up at the next meeting?
My motion was to continue it until that
The next
we have
until.
have three new appointments.
Okay, so everybody, all right, is that understood? Until we have three new members on the board, appointed members on the board, is that what you're saying? Elizabeth?
That was my suggestion,
Okay.
that was my motion.
Shalonda Graham, Department of Buildings. Is the appointment committee, are they moving forward with 3 members, or do we know that they have all 3, or is it 2 to 1?
I cannot tell you if I can't, but let me promise to do this, let me promise to send you an update after the meeting.
It was 3. Nicholas Dees, Assistant General Counsel, oath. I'm not sure if it's in the minutes, but I read somewhere that there are 3 candidates. 3 candidates are currently under review.
Right. I can't promise you that there are still 3, because things happen during the process, and sometimes people do drop out, right? One of the issues has been that there are lots of, there's investigatory stuff, there's a lot of stuff involved in being a board member, and sometimes people do drop out, so I can't.
Well, I mean, I'm making that motion, we can always revisit it if we get 2 more members and we feel like at that point, and so I'm making the motion that at least for the time being, until we have 3 new members, that we continue with the 1 appointed member per panel. And obviously, we can revisit it at some future point in time and go back to what it was based on the changed circumstances.
Okay.
So Shalonda Graham, Department of Buildings. I would imagine that it may be better for us to just make the motion until we have new panel members, rather than saying the term 3. So that way we don't have to wait until there's 3 in total. Just until there's some new that we revisit.
That's fine too.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
right?
it's the
Semantics.
same thing,
Well,
yeah.
it's a little more flexible.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Okay, that's the motion. All in favor of that motion? Okay, this is a unanimous vote. All right, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, Mr. Cuny's DP's request for cease and desist orders.
Yes. Good morning, Russell Cunis with DEP Legal. So for this board meeting, DEP is making 1 request for a cease and desist order under the sewer code. This pertains to the Brooklyn Bridge Marriott Hotel at 333 Adams Street in Brooklyn. DEP inspectors visited the hotel and issued an order to Marriott Hotel Services, Inc. on May 2nd of 2017, requiring them to install a large number of grease interceptors on various drains, all of them located specifically in the hotel's kosher kitchen. And when that was not complied with, another inspection was done and another order was issued. And eventually, after a series of commissioners' orders were issued, summonses began to be issued in October of 2017. Summonses were issued again in November of 17, January of 18, and then in between January and April of 18, there was some response from Marriott, but they had still not complied with a number of the orders. And so additional summonses were issued in April of 18. And as of September, there was still not full compliance, so an additional summons was issued in September. And as of now, they still are not in compliance with 5 of the commissioner's orders. And based on that, the department is requesting that the board issue an order to cease and desist, requiring them to come into full compliance with all of the commissioner's orders, requiring the installation of grease interceptors on all of the drains and equipment in the kosher kitchen. Yeah.
Elizabeth, now we're appointed member. So what is Marriott's position here? Do they have a position? as to-
I am not, because we have a separate legal unit in the Bureau of Wastewater Treatment that deals with enforcement of the sewer code issues. I have not been privy to whatever discussions there have been with Marriott. Obviously, this has been going on for a couple of years and they're still not in full compliance. And it would seem like the Marriott Hotel Group would have the resources to comply with whatever they need to comply with.
Well, that's why I'm asking, it's not like some.
Yeah, I'm not sure
fly-by-night
exactly
operation that you might think
what the
just doesn't- can't
discussions
afford
have
it.
been. And it does appear like they have done some work, but not everything that's required.
Walter Martinez, Department of Health. Looks like they don't have any, well, the appropriate number of grease interceptors. Just a general question, is it an expensive piece of equipment to install? I'm not sure why they won't have.
I mean, it depends on the sizing, and I mean, the grease interceptors are required basically in all restaurants. Anything where they have cooking going on that involves frying or anything like that. Every mom and pop restaurant basically has to have a grease interceptor. So for a place like the Marriott not to be in full compliance, it does seem rather odd. But we have been issuing them paperwork and apparently have had some discussions with them and response from them, but after 2 years of trying to get them into full compliance, they're still not into full compliance.
And-
This would certainly not be an expense that would be more than a, rounding error on the Marriott's balance sheet.
Does the appeals unit have any insight? Have they appealed any of these summons, any of the
No, not that I'm aware of.
findings of violation?
No, they haven't.
No, not to my knowledge. No, that's this request.
Okay, is there a motion? All right, and all in favor? Okay, all right, so that's all in favor of the sewer for the request. Next one.
Okay, the next one is under the noise code, and the premises is 1285 East 23rd Street in Brooklyn. The owner of the building is an individual, Henry Steinmetz. This is a situation where there are, I believe, 2 air conditioning units on the roof of the building that are impacting a nearby apartment. We issued 3 summonses last year. One of them was defaulted, and the other 2 were found in violation after a hearing. We are receiving persistent complaints since the winter has ended from the complainant that the equipment is back in use. Apparently it's used seasonally. It's back in use. We have been unable to arrange an inspection with the complainant that would have allowed us to issue another summons this year so far, although I believe I was told that there is an appointment with the complainant for next week. But because the board only meets now every 2 months, we wanted to bring this request before the board at this meeting, because that way we can get them hopefully into compliance before June when the board meets again. And so it would be 2 months sooner of getting it into compliance. Ideally, we would have inspected this again since it was brought back into operation this spring, but we just haven't been able to make the appointment in time for this meeting. So we are requesting that the board approve a cease and desist order for it at this juncture.
Okay, all right, is there a motion? Okay, and all in favor?
And finally, we have for this meeting 49 requests for cease and desist orders for failure to comply with backflow prevention requirements. In each of these cases, the building owner it has been determined that the premises requires the installation of backflow preventers. The building owner has been ordered to install them. A summons has been issued for failing to install them, and that summons has been adjudicated in violation. So in each of these cases, the department is requesting that the board issue an order to cease and desist.
Okay, any questions? Okay, is there a motion? All in favor? All right, it's unanimous vote.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda are DEP's request for pre-sealing reports, and Amy Slivka. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. We have 16 pre-sealing reports for today's board. 12 of the reports involve backflow cases, 4 of the reports involve noise code cases. So for the backflow, in 11 of the backflow cases, the hearing officers recommended no sealing or other action based on respondents' evidence of compliance presented at the hearings. In one of the backflow cases, the hearing officer recommends that the C&D proceeding be discontinued because the respondent established that it sold the cited premises. Okay? Questions?
Okay. All right, so is there a motion to approve pre-sealing reports, and all in favor? Okay. All right.
Okay, for the noise cases, there are 4 noise code cases. The 4 noise code cases involve noise from refrigeration, kitchen exhaust, and boiler burner equipment. In all of the cases, the respondents presented evidence of work done on the site of the equipment to bring the equipment into compliance with the noise code. So based on respondents' evidence of compliance, the hearing officers agree with DEP's recommendation that the equipment remain unsealed if DEP's initial re-inspections and further inspections for a period of 180 days show no violations.
Okay, any question on those? None? Okay, is there a motion? And all in favor? Okay, another unanimous vote, thank you. All right, so I think that we've gotten through the on-record items. So is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss the judicial report? All right, all in favor of the motion? We had a motion to return to public session, okay. So we'll have a board vote then on the alternative decisions for the full board appeal. All those in favor of denying the appeal, thus affirming the decision below, that dismisses the 2 summonses and finds that respondent Owen Foster did not unlawfully advertise occupancy of a dwelling unit that would violate New York State multiple dwelling law, section 4(8). All those in favor, please raise your hand. Denying the appeal, affirming. Okay, so that's 3 votes in favor. And all those in favor of granting the appeal, thus reversing the decision below, sustaining the two summonses and finding that respondent Owen Foster did unlawfully advertise occupancy of a dwelling unit that would violate New York State multiple dwelling law, section 4A. Please vote in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4. Betsy? Okay, that's 5 in favor. And 1 abstention, thank you. All right, have all attendees signed the attendance sheet? Okay. All right, any further matters? All right, then, is there a
Well,
motion?
excuse me, I do
Yeah.
have one. Do we have an update on what's happening with the head of the agency?
We do not. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Okay, all right, thank you, everyone. And our next meeting will be, what's the date?
June something.
Oh, 8 weeks.